Hello and welcome to Construction Tech, presented by House Accelerator, a catalyst of zero carbon building. We're happy you're here. We welcome all comers to our exploration of how to slash the greenhouse gas emissions of our buildings and make them more resilient to the extreme temperatures, wild weather, and grid insecurity caused by climate change. With our co-hosts, Kevin Brennan, Shannon Pendleton, Sean St. Amour, and Mark Willey, we produce this weekly series to dive into the details of passive house construction practice, with a technical focus on technique and technology in the field. New to all of this, please visit the Passive House 101 section of our website to get started. With that, please enjoy Construction Tech and pose your questions in chat for the discussion session following the presentation. Thank you. All right, well, welcome everyone to Construction Tech. We're very happy to have the one and only Safi here to talk about Ubergreat PHKUPS. So with that, I will hand it off to the co-hosts.
Thank you very much, Zach. And I appreciate you swearing, but it's not swearing on Tuesday when you use the PH. So glad everyone's able to join us. If you're here on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, if you're from here in North America, across a pond or whichever pond, we are glad you showed up. We've got an exciting event. And in that beginning, I always love the logo that Zach and the rest of the Accelerator team created, where to get to zero carbon, we start with passive house, then we look at the materials carbon emissions, then we electrify the building, and then we put on those lovely, exterior panels or some type of renewable energy. So, and we're going to get into that story from Sai today. So thank you, everyone. I'm Sean St. Amour. Pleasure to be here like always. And I look forward to all the questions you're going to throw at him and the presentation. Over to you, Mark.
All right, Sean. So Mark Willey here, and I'm really thrilled to be here. Tuesday nights are a night that I look forward to. I like to see the faces that join, the faces that come back, and the new faces that pop up. We all know that's faces with a PH. And I certainly love your comments on what the presenter gives, because that helps me be aware of what you enjoy hearing. And then when you put a question, it's oftentimes a question I hadn't thought of, so it helps me learn throughout the night. I'm thrilled for this presentation, and I encourage you to take some screenshots, post them to social media, and tag the folks that couldn't be here, and welcome them to meet Sai and to join Construction Tech next week. So, Shannon, the microphone is all yours.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks, Sean. Thanks, Zach. And thank you to tonight's guest, Safi. Welcome, everyone. I'm Shannon from Sanderson Sustainable Design. Remember to open the chat, update your name, let us know where you're from, and get ready to take a seat, because it's true you can learn a lot about a friend by traveling with them. And if you're lucky, you get to sit in the back of the bus together. Tonight's guest, Sai, and I shared a bus ride during the FIASCon building tours, and I learned a lot. So take your seat and get ready to take the long way home and go back about 15 years with Sai. He's a developer and an all-around PH hero, and we're excited to have you here. Hi, Sai.
Hey, Shannon. Thanks for having me.
Welcome.
And thank you, Mark, Sean, and Zach. Just so you know, Mark, Sean, and Zach, if there's anyone to blame for having me on here and I mess up or fuck up, you can talk to Shannon, because she asked me to be on here. So I will take it from here. All right. Ubergreat PHKUPS by Sai with Ubergreen Spaces. So to give you a little bit of history. So I did grow up in construction, and when my brothers and I, we helped our father at a very young age. And so it was a lot of fun. We really enjoyed it and always kept me curious. And, that curiosity went on to civil engineering at the University of Cincinnati. And that 5-year degree actually got more exposure for commercial construction, plan spec, design build. I worked for an architectural engineering firm. So I had 3 different co-op experiences, which was really nice and eye-opening. And then after graduation, I worked for a very large commercial CM, building schools, hospitals, multifamily, things like that, really broadens your scope of what construction and design can be. But along the way, it became a little more frustrating. In 2006, that's why I went ahead and started GCCM Construction Services, because a lot of times, and say, I remember like a hospital project we're building, hearing the owners come up to you and say, this is not performing. You're like, well, we're building exactly how you have it on plan and spec. And, talk to your engineer, talk to your architect, they're the ones that stamp the drawings. We're doing exactly how it's shown. But, that was a constant issue that came up. We would get blamed for a lack of performance. And so that made me want to be, looking at the process and try to improve things by, when in 2006, I started GCCM Construction Services to do CM work, but to do it in a collaborative way, where I had some involvement with the design, because, you being in the field and, trying to build it, you obviously learn about construction means and methods, you learn about the industry, you learn about what's going on out there, what works, what may not work. And so, with that, in our first commercial project, immediately also saw, we're working for a nonprofit, very large commercial building, a school and a community center. And, the folks that were on the board, they're on a nonprofit. So like they all had day jobs, and they're essentially coming to me asking questions like, well, what's this change? What is a change? Or what is this? What's going on? So they didn't really understand construction, not commercial construction at least. But then as I started explaining things, a light bulb went off, and they're like, oh, well, when I had my house built, or when I had a renovation, so everything kind of related back to a house that may help them make sense. But then immediately came those complaints about, the lack of performance of the home, and, the discomfort, and come see this, come fix this. It's like, so being a good, person that's building something for this nonprofit, I go and I check out these things, and it becomes very frustrating early on. It's like, man, something could be done better here. And this is like 2006 or 2008. I see the Lead for Homes pilot program come out, and I'm like, well, okay, this has got a lot of great things on here, and it looks like it's touching on all these challenges that that's really missing in the residential industry. And so I kind of took a little offense to that, in the sense that, we're working really hard in commercial construction. You got a lot of folks that are being diligent about design and checks and balances, and, making sure at least it's done right. And that's relatively speaking. And so, I'm like, well, we need to apply some of these techniques and diligence to residential. And I thought, well, Lead for Homes looks like a great idea. So I found somebody, they're willing to go along with it. And so, 2006 through 2008, we gathered a bunch of, folks that were interested in doing, something different, and, in doing Lead. And we found a client that was interested in doing it, and they're like, and they're willing to allow us to basically test out these theories and products and methods that everybody's kind of scared of, because they didn't really believe. And so this is just a little entertainment for you all, a video that we threw together early on, because this, mind you, is in Louisville, Kentucky. And it's a bit challenging, certainly, just a little back history on Kentucky in general. Folks jokingly say, like Mark Twain said it best, if the world were to end today, I'd move to Kentucky, because they're 20 years behind everyone else. And so there is some truth behind that. And, the methods and code is, I think we're still on like 2006 or 2009 building code for residential. So it's still back behind there. And so we needed to basically put some videos out there to help legitimize and let people see the different techniques. And I'll just play this one real quick. Can y'all hear it?
Zach. Hi, Sai. How are you? Great. Good to see you. Good to see you too. Those are hand scraped hickory. Wow. Both FSC certified and formaldehyde free. Kind of a different countertop.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it's really heavy too. It seems really durable.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That is great. And I can see there's no lights on it.
No lights on? Yeah.
Not at all.
You know, Zach, I could take up your whole day here. I feel like I'm a kid in a candy store.
Dave.
Hi,
How you doing? Good. Great to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks for taking the time out of your day.
So this whole combination here gives you your heating, cooling for your house and your hot water at the cheapest possible way to get it.
Right.
I don't care how well you insulate in between these studs, you'll still get energy transfer going through the studs themselves.
Where has this thing been all my life? You know? I mean, this is what I want. And this is something that we definitely want to be able to use in the home.
Right.
So what am I looking at here? You got a can light in the ceiling of a home.
Can light in the ceiling of a home.
So
Exactly.
above the ceiling is the attic.
That's the attic, and so
Okay.
it was insulated at the flat level there.
Okay. After you get done with your clothes, you pull it out, put it on top, fold it all up, and then take it to wherever you got to store it.
He's trying to get one that'll fold your clothes, but they don't have it yet.
Oh, is that right? Well, when they do, you let me know about that. I want that.
Almost half of our nation's energy consumption goes towards powering our homes and buildings. Now that's expensive, and we could do something about it. Right here on this vacant lot, we're going to build one of Kentucky's most greenest, energy-efficient homes.
We kept on moving from there. So what's funny is that it's not really funny, but I'm typically pretty reserved. And so as I'm working on this stuff, everybody that wanted to gather around me to do these things that were different are like, you know, you really need to put this out there. You really need to share it. You need to, so I'm like, all right, fine. You know, so we had to do a little acting. We had to do a little drama. We had to like make it appeal to, you know, what, you know, folks are used to seeing on HGTV and DIY, just so that, you know, give it some credibility as best you can. And so a little entertainment there. But interestingly, you know, and sadly, you know, things haven't changed a whole lot when it comes to the energy consumption with homes and buildings, you know, from what I said back then in 2006. But the great thing is that things are becoming more mainstream, and you know, and a lot of these techniques you'll see here, you know, we've worked to improve and improve on materials and stuff. And so here you can see some of these pictures. This was insulation underneath the slab. It was a crazy idea, you know. Oh, you're nuts. And so, you know, we just made sure we engineered the right stuff, and we did it. And that gentleman standing in there is Bill. He's 70 some odd years old, and he could swear that he could walk in his wood shop that's right about there, barefoot on the slab in the winter, and feel real comfortable. So here's some more pictures of the basement. We did ICF all the way up, and we actually did it all the way up on the exterior walls. You know, and then some cool things we did too is we actually on the right there, on right corner, you see there's a porch, but what we did was we created a cistern, a rainwater collection tank underneath it. So we capture all the rainwater off the roof. We worked with our sprinkler folks, and we invented, well, I would say invented, but we made a system that would not use the city water, that the meter that services the irrigation. It would use the water in the cistern first, and then if it got so low, we had a float that went down, and it would turn a valve, and then it would open up city water to use the city water pressure instead of like using energy to use the pump that we had there, which is really cool. Then we did solar. Which is really neat about this too is that we ended up only needing 15 panels to get to net zero, which is pretty, you know, it's, you know, back then when you think about it, people that were trying to jump on solar early on for a home like this, they had to do like 60, 80, you know, even more panels to get to like zero or net zero. And we only needed 15, which is pretty amazing. And this is cool. Like we had some happy homeowners. There's Bill and Linda. We got LEED platinum. We also got net zero water, just for the amount of water we collected. I think it was a 3,000 or 4,000 gallon cistern. And we were all like geeked about the way that, you know, this energy monitoring that we had, and some of the cool things like down below here. I don't know if you see it, but it says that for the amount of energy we produced for whatever day we took this screenshot, you know, for one day we could power 404 houses, which is pretty phenomenal. And then, you know, they got these little odometers. It shows that we're producing more power than we're using. And then which is really cool. We had sensors on every one of the circuit breakers, so we can just follow what was being used, and you could see the activity of what's happening in the house, and they were cool with that. But it's neat to see the rooms that people prioritize and then the rooms that they don't even use, and it's like, do you need that space? Not really. But that was really cool. Here's a wall detail just so you see. We did ICF all the way up. We did insulation at the below the slab, and there are some things I'll note here, but then we up in the ceiling we did do a blown-in cellulose, which, like I say, was not a fun idea later, to have to get up there and cut in like a solar tube or just do anything up top there was no fun. But this was a pretty stout home, and the way we approached the detail with the walls and backfilling and things like that, we approached it similar to commercial construction, where we backfill, compacted, and so those are things that aren't usually typical in residential. So here, Ubergreat fuck up opportunities. So ICF wall all the way up unless your client wants to pay for it. So back in, interestingly, this project didn't happen when we wanted it to happen in 2006, because in 2008, because the economy went to hell, and the neighborhood that it was in went to foreclosure, and so the owners waited 4 years, and we actually did in 2012. But it was pretty awesome that they did wait around and that we were able to make it happen. So we keeping the same ICF, some more fuck ups, keep the same ICF block on each floor. So if you look back here, we went from an 8, I think it switched to a 6, or 6 to a 4. I can't remember. Yeah, it was 6 to a 4. That was not a fun detail. We thought we were being smart by saving money, and that was no fun. In the scenario like this, you learn that you're mixing commercial with residential, where most residential trades are not familiar with attaching their work to ICF. So, either you got to do some training of them to help them understand how to be able to work with that, or really you're going to end up limiting your pile of folks that you can get. Like we had electricians that would not work on a job because of just being able to run their wires, and so there's ways of getting around that. Put mesh in your slab, they're going to freak out. If you compact it 100% with your stone, and you pour, it should be fine over the right density type of insulation. So you're looking at probably 1.8 pound density of insulation, or another insulated product that would be able to take that weight. Blown in cellulose was not fun, and if you get up there, you got to suit up sometimes, or you got to really wear masks and stuff. Pre-engineered trusses, they could be much more costlier than your frames being able to do it. It is kind of tough, certainly when it comes to detailing in your air barrier and stuff like that. In this case, we had to obviously go with the drywall ceiling because they did a blown in. But if you're going to spend the money on a crane, you might as well do a panelized, which is what we've obviously learned after time. Try not to give away too much of your concessions. This was the first type of project we put out there. It was a long time ago. No one was doing anything like it. But we did give away, actually we owned the solar array. We took it back later, put on another project, but the upgrade to ICF, geothermal, spray foam, zero VOC finishes that were very hard to find back then, under slab insulation, high performance windows, like we ended up paying for those upgrades, and that came out of pocket, so, but we looked at it as us teaching ourselves and an educational opportunity for us to learn from and to be able to carry on the next one. And it was great for marketing. High performance window, if you are to pick one and you're not able to install like the European ones, or ones that aren't familiar to your framers, usually framers are ones around us that do install them. KHPP, they used to be Serious Window. They're awesome. They're out of Pennsylvania. They looks just like a window that you would see standard wise if it's super heavy. It's got the little film in the middle. I think Alpine window kind of carried on after that later. But this is a great window to go with that they can put in without any training. And then, so what happened next? So I had that open for a few months. We won some awards, and we're flown to Germany, and with Saint-Gobain, and we won runner-up on sustainability and stuff, which is really cool. It brought in a lot of sales, which is great because there was like 50 lots that were vacant in that neighborhood, and we sparked. We're the first to build in there since the economy turned and it started to like come back in 2012. We were ready to buy like 10 lots for new contract builds, and these were contract builds. The realtor didn't respond. We didn't hear. We talked to the bank. Finally, he responded, and then told us the whole neighborhood was sold to his friend. And so, we helped start up some building in that neighborhood, and then we didn't get to, keep it going, to keep it mainstream. But we had to go back to the drawing board. So we kept on keeping on. My cousin in Texas was pretty blown away with it. We called that My Green Kentucky Home, playing off of song My Old Kentucky Home. And he'd asked if I'd help him with this custom build. And I told him I'd help him if he just listened, asked questions, went back, did quote unquote research. That's for you, Zach Semke. Your wife, PhD, tells you that you do not do research when you are preparing for your speeches. But so he came back to me. He's like, well, this stuff makes a lot of sense. And he decided that he wanted to take a jump and run with it. And so here's a result here. Let's see if this will work.
We are not Kentucky. We're in Houston, Texas, building one of Texas's greenest, most energy efficient, healthy homes. I'm Safi with GCCM Construction Services. I'll show you how it's done. Safi, how you doing, man?
How you doing? Great to see you. Well, hold on. Let me shut this. I'm not gonna let you see inside the house.
Hey, you look great, man.
Appreciate
You know,
great too.
you gotta show me around. I feel like I'm in this oasis, this garden, this
Well, first thing you notice, all the landscaping in this whole house.
Okay.
All right. Are y'all able to still hear me? I'm going to take you to the end because it was all just a bunch of show.
Language, and you told me go do your research and come back. So you know what? I did my research, and you know what? It all just makes sense. If you just take the time to do the research and understand it, it will make sense. The cost to the benefit is just phenomenal. My wife sat down, we talked about it, and I was like, you know what? Why am I not doing this? Why do I not want to build like this? Yeah. Why are people building houses the same way we built in the 70s, put a little spray foam and call it efficient? There's more to it.
But you know what's interesting? I feel like you're talking like me now, and I would be doing you a disservice if I did not expose you to what we all don't know about.
Exactly.
And that's scary, not knowing that we are putting our lives at risk. We're putting our environment at risk. We're putting so many things out there. We're doing things that might be status quo that we don't really know.
Yes, all the energy efficiencies and all of the environment-friendly stuff that we're doing to improve the air quality. But you know what it's also doing? Saving them money in our pocket.
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference for the average homeowner.
It does.
They want to save money. And if you can use the building science to save money and help Mother Nature,
Yeah.
it's a win-win for everybody.
It's a
So
win.
teacher to student, and hopefully I will have a student to pass it on to.
I hope so too. Wow. What is most impressive to me is how he embraced sustainability with LEED. The end results are amazing. Not only is he helping his family, but he's also helping the environment. I'm Safi with GCCM Construction Services. This is how it's done.
All right. So that was another thing that we put together to try to get folks to, just kind of normalize it and be able to get them to see that it's being picked up. And a lot of times when you do get a client, someone that's willing to go along with your craziness, then that's the persons you want to run with. And let's see if this is the right screen as I jump back. That was cool and stuff. And it's interesting because a lot of times the challenges that we have with people that have a lot of money, they kind of don't value that. And a lot of times, an energy bill doesn't matter to them. But, you know, we're starting to see that kind of shift a little bit, which is great. Normally it's like we won't do monster homes and stuff like that. We don't encourage it, but I mean, you have to really, if somebody's asking you about this stuff and they are open to it, then it's better we do it than somebody else. And because if we know that we can at least have the conversations with folks that are building an almost 8,000 square foot home and an ADU on top of that, you know, then at least we could do it passive house, you know, high performance. And so we actually had the conversation about passive house. Since I didn't do it on the previous Migrant Kentucky home, he was worried about, you know, putting that on top of there, but we still implemented passive house principles. And so we did do ICF, and you can see here the house, they did do solar in the back. You can see it got 20 panels, I think, on there. And believe it or not, this house, it performs phenomenally. They did do, well, for the areas that were low bearing over top of ceilings and stuff, we did a split wall up top. So you can see in the top left corner of that picture, that's a frame wall on the exterior. You know, we encouraged built-ins and then something kind of cool down there in the bottom right corner for pools, because pools are very prominent in Houston and in Texas in general. Going with a California 90, like doing 245s helps you get a lot of efficiency for your pumps and stuff, which is cool. So, you know, some fuck ups trying to convince a client to go smaller. If they don't want to do it, they're not going to do it. In fact, you know, they kind of added some room on this. You know, you want to try your best to have folks to get a real architect involved, even if it is talking with schematics, and especially if you can get an architect that's a CPHC. You know, even an architect that says they're green may not necessarily understand the form factor. And so that's a huge thing here. You know, the hard duct in lieu of flex, better hot water distribution systems, like they got 10 bathrooms. I mean, they could have done something better there. So something they did listen to also was go with as many fixed windows as you can, because, you know, at least those won't leak air. And then if you're going to go with an operable window, go with a casement, because at least you can get them to shut and seal all the way around. Steer them clear away from the double hungs and stuff and single hungs. And then, you know, don't be shy. If they're going to call on you to ask for help to build something, always give your best recommendations early and upfront. You know, because you have to let folks know that, listen, you know, you came to us for a reason. And, you know, we're here to look out for your best interests. And the fact that we are encouraging you to decrease the amount of your program and the size of your home is really for your best interest. And if you're thinking about numbers, most builders want to go larger so they can have a higher fee on that. So, you know, if you think about it, we're not really thinking about the money here. We're thinking about you. But excuse me. So like in Texas, you can almost get away with, like if you're building your own home in different parts of Texas, you could build without inspection at all. But again, especially like in this space, they didn't have to build with any inspections, but we always recommend to hire engineers to test along the way, geotechs and structurals and all that. Excuse me. So form factor again is big. And then the simpler the roof you can get them to do, it's optimal amount for future solar. So if you look back here at this roof, you know, you got those two bump outs there with the hipped roofs on the right and left. We could have easily made something like flat and just one hip or something like that, but you know, they went that way. So they kind of lost some opportunities there to do more solar on top of there. They are looking at, actually, we're talking today, they're looking at bifacials, they're looking at putting some outdoor structures, you know, for the outdoor spaces. So then we looked for another opportunity to do another model home of some sort, while still doing like commercial residential of other projects. So 2016 Homerama in Louisville, Kentucky was a great opportunity because there was a new urbanism development. It's like, oh, great, we could touch on so many things with, you know, passive house, living building challenge, well, you know, being on a small lot close to homes, so you can still show people that you can have a lot of indoor outdoor connections in nature, lots of outdoor space, lots of natural light. You can produce energy. You can make it look like a, you know, an old home, you know, historic, because it's kind of pretentious in a way by recreating, I guess, the past. But you know, that's what that neighborhood is. And so we started out with some fun sketches. And if you look on the left, like I'm like, all right, let's see if we can do this. It's like a shotgun lot. It's deep lot. It's narrow. Try to keep it simple with the form and shape. And I know that, you know, we have, you know, a lower roof deck and we want outdoor spaces. And the second iteration was kind of like another idea. Threw some numbers at it. We're like, oh, 700,000. Okay, maybe we can do it for that. And then, so, you know, we get going and then my juices get going. Like, I got to show everybody everything, you know? So it's like, you know, we had the footings made with geofoam troughs, and, you know, you can see them, we put rebar in there. They're pretty amazing to work with, poured them. They look great. Did the 6 inches of geofoam beneath the slab. You know, now look at the shape of the thing. It turned out to be, you know, our architect really wanted to have a lot of features, and you know, it got chopped up, and I wasn't happy about that, but we're under the gun to get on the way, and I had to keep the team happy too, because, you know, you have folks, you know, rallying behind you. And so, you know, you want to make a feature home. Down on the bottom right picture, you can see that little, looks like a hole dug down in there that ends up being a rainwater collection tank over on the patio. Then you have, let's see, these bucks here on the left. I got a window buck, that ICF window buck, that's kind of thermal break. And then, you know, you could see to the right of that, this is the bottom left picture. To the right of that, there's a 2x4 stud wall frame there. So prior to this, I got my CPHC and my CPHB, and I'm like, all right, Woofy was not terrible to model, being that we had a bunch of squares, which was great. But the actual getting to where you need to be to meet the heating and cooling demand loads, and you know, the marks that we needed to get it certified, we needed an R40 wall, when in this area you could get away with like a 30 or less or so. So that's why we had to fur that wall out on the inside. And then if you look down at the bottom right picture, we even did a dense pack fiberglass in there. So that got us to an R40. You know, it turned out beautifully. This won some awards, got a lot of attention locally and just around other areas. So we followed well. We followed, you know, living building, you know, challenge with some pedal certifications and passive house. And so every bit of this was done by hand. Like all of the sealing was with Prosico and some tapes and zip, and we got this thing by hand down to 0.5 ACH on the first try, which is pretty amazing. But, you know, it took this like this lift down here to get around the whole thing, and it is costly. But it's a beautiful result. I don't know if you know Russ Smith from, he used to be for the University of Louisville. He's playing pro ball overseas. We had this for about 4 years as a model. He ended up buying it. He was on the 2013 National Championship of the Cardinals. And this is another video we did just to like put it out there to help folks, I guess, get an understanding. So, you know, you learn that when you speak too much technical and building science, people understand. So I had to come in and try to do it as relatable as possible. And I'll just do a brief.
Welcome to Suverde, the proud green home of Louisville. I'm Safi with Ubergreen Spaces and Homes. You are in for a treat. This house was designed around health and wellness in spaces. We consider that indoor air quality is usually 3 to 5 times worse than outside air. And what we've done to make this home really healthy is we've sealed all the cracks in the home that you typically find in windows, in the walls, in the ceilings, and through the doors. And we've also insulated this house really, really well. So you see the walls are very thick with insulation. And we have a window that is thick and sealed on the inside of the sash and also in the frame. And when you close it down, it closes like a vault. So this is like your savings to energy and comfort. And since they're European windows, they tilt as well for fresh air if you'd like it. One of the other great things that we do in this house for health and wellness is that we have all these windows on the south side, allowing a lot of natural light to come into the space, which is very important because the color of light that goes through our optic nerve will affect the way that we operate in our energy throughout the day, and it'll also affect the way we sleep. Now, since this house is airtight, what do we do about the solution of having ventilation?
So essentially, went downstairs, looked at the Zender Comfo 550, and we got the ICF walls we show what's under the floor and the stego and the tape. And then we got the EWS, we're dealer for the whole home filtration systems. And we go to top and we look at the solar, and then we show the energy bill for
Paying for the basic service charges.
about $12.
I'm Safi with,
And so that's that. And then, here's some details. Another thing that's like, dang it, should not have gone all the way up with ICF. But we did it because we wanted to show it, and we wanted to talk about fortified for safer living, and we want to talk about durability and resilience and all those great things. But if you look at this detail, you see the footing. We do have former drain down there on the sides of footing, which is really cool. We do have the footing trough. We have the ICF going all the way up. We got the framed wall on the inside of that, and then in the ceilings, we actually did do spray foam underneath the primary roof, the flat roof. So we did a commercial type roof with layers of polyiso, and then dense pack fiberglass, and then an area of a second floor wall that was over top of an area that could not bear on the ICF. That was a double stud wall, which was interesting. We did a kind of a flash and bat on that. And then, form factor, gosh. Yeah, we had an R100 in that attic, and we did not have to go that far, but that's what we had to do to get this thing to meet the certifications, because of all those inside outside corners. Geesh. So right size design is great for everyone, but not for everyone. So in Kentucky, really in a lot of places in the country, you're dealing with folks that get wowed by just, wow, this room's big. Wow, this room's big. It's great. So they put a lot of value in those things. European windows and doors, make sure you do them per manufacturer's instructions. Send your submittals or just details to them, because they have great information and great, learning, stuff they'll teach you for installation that'll make you get it right the first time. So don't be scared if some of your UPVC windows might have little bows and no sashes, because sometimes they do have a little warp in it, but you just gotta learn how to properly adjust them, and the seals will take care of it. Hardware upgrades aren't always necessarily, worth the cost. They function right, but if they're going to pay for it, they'll pay for it. Always hardwire your EVR controls, even if you have a wireless option. So, when you have that switch or that button in the bathroom, just hardwire it to the unit so you don't ever have any issues. No need for fancy home automation if you don't have to, because the beauty of what you're going to do here allows you to set it and forget it, and you can go on and enjoy your life. Footing geofoam trough, you could design it out with proper modeling and savings. So if you have continuous insulation on the slab, under the slab, hitting your walls and things like that, proper MEP coordination, sleeves in the ICF, anywhere you need it, or just regular foundations and whatever's needed to feed utilities, pre-pipe of all future thoughts like solar ready, waste lines to the other structures, irrigation. So most value in a home is added value items that get the home passive house standards and perform. So those are areas that we start at the beginning, like, okay, the structure is really where you get the biggest bang for your buck. And that's, if you're following passive house, you're talking about the site, the orientation, way the sun's going, and then you're doing you're designing the walls and such, and the roof, and then fenestration. Then you're getting into fresh air and all those other things. But we noticed here that you truly can get your value out of that Appraisal Institute's Residential Green Energy Efficiency Addendum. If you don't use it, you're not going to get appraised properly. This house appraised much higher than other homes in the neighborhood. I think like 360 or about 375 a foot, when other ones are like 200, 250, 220. You know, I have another example of another home we did after this one that was, they initially worked with a lender, and they used this energy efficient addendum, like we said. They appraised it like 770. It was pretty close to where it should be. And then they like went with another lender. The other lender didn't listen with their appraiser. It appraised at 550. So there's a big difference in whether you use this and the appraiser uses it or not. If your appraiser doesn't use it, get rid of them and find another one, or make your bank get another one. This one's really cool. In 2019, this is a shed on a small farm in Kentucky. They want to create a grow house out of it, and I was like, okay, the passive house grow house. And so they fixed the structure up and stuff, and so we came in and we did the peel stick, and we became an air barrier dealer at the time, because we've learned through these different projects over the years that there's not a lot of folks that know how to do these self-performed things, or subs that can do it. That's why we've taught ourselves to do it. We went from a 33 air changes an hour to 3 air changes an hour just in this stage of the building. We're mainly just kind of playing around with the equipment, but we did go ahead and finish it off. We built out the bucks, did Proseco, we did the 3 inches of EPS, vapor open, did the furring strips, and then we had solar on top. When you can't find any passive house barn doors, you just make them. So we made them, and here's some more pictures. They like redundancy, and so they wanted to be able to multiple mini splits. They wanted to have multiple fresh air systems. We did the Zender. Which one was this one? This is the really nice one right now. It's escaping me. But it also balances itself, which is pretty amazing. We install those ourselves. Yeah, I think it's a 600. But anyways, it's great because it does balance itself out. And you know, we've never done a grow house, but they wanted to use this because they make their own grow lights, which is really cool. And they're growing hemp, and they're using it to make seeds. And Kentucky doesn't allow marijuana yet, but what was really awesome is that we're able to apply passive house principles, just understanding what they needed to do to grow these plants without cross-pollination was a big thing. And so we made this thing airtight. Then we had layers of different filters within the system. And I don't know if you can see in the background where the Zender unit is up in the air, there is like a manifold there, and that has, I think, layers of charcoal filters and different MRF, whatever filters. And, you know, and then, you know, we got called to other projects to fix things for people. And essentially there was folks that used Zola. We consulted on this house years ago. They didn't do exactly what we told them to do, and they didn't communicate with Zola at the time. So if you're on the left, you see there's only 2 LVL beams. There really should be 6. And so this like 12-inch wide, 3 panel, 18-foot wide, 10-foot tall lift slide door was only 1/3 on a load bearing. And so we had to change it. It's cost $60,000 later. We had to actually toss what was there and put new in, and it worked swimmingly. One thing that's kind of cool, we're trying to get away from certainly, you know, high carbon materials, with a lot of embodied energy. So when you look at this third picture, you know, from the left, that's kind of an idea of that's like, no, you know, you don't want to spray foam over mechanicals and stuff. And so that was really hard to find mechanicals and reroute things for the things that had happened there. And the picture on the right kind of also put us in another direction on a different house that we were working on. And it's like so much time can be saved, and money can be saved and sent back to the clients if you're able to panelize. And so this 2019 project got us looking for a warehouse to do panelization, you know, split wall. And so, you know, look at the ladders, look at every little piece of, you know, dot of joint and seam filler that we have to do over nail heads. You know, there's a lot of work involved there. So we have a 7.5 ton crane in the space we have. There's a wall panel. There's a couple examples. We got into mods. We've done some containers. We are doing some right now. So we're looking at ways to help provide solutions. We're also into placemaking and placekeeping, and so, you know, helping communities. And this was for a community college that is in the downtown area of Louisville. You know, then we got getting into ADUs. We're rolling out an ADU series, and these are some elevations, trying to keep them simple. This gives you an idea of 3 options: solo, the mini, solo, and a duo. You know, you can add on if you want. Trying to keep it simple. And we actually did draw a tiny because some people want something even smaller. So we took the mini and chopped out the program to the north there and left a little hallway. But these ADUs are, you know, saying, you know, these are standard size, you know, cabinets, standard size appliances, because they're a little easier for people to grasp on. But they're from 435 square feet to 826. And let's see, here's another shot of it. We're working with an affordable housing developer, trying to help them come up with affordable passive house, and this will be panelized soon. So we're taking any turnkey projects we have and panelize them. I've also become a partner, or, you know, I started a development company a couple years ago with a few other colleagues. And so, you know, we're looking at urban revitalization in areas that are kind of like forgotten places in cities. And so trying to build pathways to equity and workforce development, and, you know, obviously doing it the way we do it with passive house, living, building, and well. And sorry about the noise. And, you know, so this is a 17-acre brownfield that we're working on right now. And I'll keep it from being disclosed just yet, because we still need, we've gathered information, obviously, from what the city has talked to the community about what their needs and wants are. But, you know, that kind of engagement was just like kind of like a night thing, you know, one evening at the community center. And, you know, but we use that information to kind of inform these things, because we have to create a pro forma. We have to be able to create our capital stack and get this thing funded. But this is on the hush. I can't obviously handle something like this in this volume and do the development at the same time. My partners, that's why Onion Flats is our partners, Tim and Howard. They're our design architects, and Luckett and Farley is our local architect of record, who's also doing design as well. But this is something that, you know, we're working on to hopefully have happen sooner than later. To the north of the site is affordable housing, and portions of it could be workforce housing. It's going to be all passive house. There will be building is involved, and living building challenge involved as well. But our premise, obviously, of building science is passive house. The dark blue you see here is solar. So we'll be producing more. This large building at the bottom is a distribution space and offices for a local company that is a pretty big company. You know, an iteration of what may happen to this too is that we're probably going to have a different tenant share space here, and take about 100,000 away from the distribution for health and wellness focused entity, and that could add another 130,000. So we got 240 units, I think 300,000 right now as you see it, but we'll do 220 for the distribution, all green, clean manufacturing as well, and then 130,000 square feet for a health and wellness type entity. Then along the street front in the pink on the left, you see is also beautiful commercial retail that also is amenities. Here's what you could see from the street, and you don't really see a warehouse. You see something beautiful, and it's pedestrian friendly, and that's a beautiful big canopy there with bifacial solar. And here's some gathering areas, and that's it. Thank you, everyone. And I thank a lot of friends and colleagues. It's been a long journey, certainly. And, we're trying to take this in a direction that hopefully can help volumes and volumes of people, a lot of people. And that's why, I've been focusing on, taking this, a lot of the turnkey projects, implementing our panels and, and then offering it hopefully to everyone that would want it. And we also are self-performing a lot of things that people don't do, the ERVs, the, putting in those tough windows and doors, and, all the things that we had to learn on the way through, that we think that we can help others. So we work for builders, we work for homeowners directly. So we try to help everybody. And by doing large scale stuff too, we hope to be able to be a solution with Passive House and the other great programs out there. Folks that I do want to thank, for a long time, I've certainly known Zach. He's been a wonderful friend and colleague. Dan Whitmore, Adam Cohen, those guys were certainly trainers of mine, but friends as well. Brandon Weiss, friend, colleague, Graham Irwin. There's also Prudence. There's, the late Sam Hagerman, Skylar. I can go on. There's so many wonderful folks, and you all obviously from Passive House Alliance.
Thank you, Sai.
Sorry,
That was
Accelerator.
That's
apologize.
okay. We understand. Fantastic presentation, Sai. I want to ask everybody to just take a moment and unmute and give you a round of applause before we hand it off to Zach to thank our sponsors.
Woo! Oh, James Hartford too, man. I can't not thank him as well. What's up, brother? That's right. I got my old school one on, just so y'all know. I won this early on.
So nice. It's wearing well. And with that, we will hand it off to Zach. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Sai. Fantastic, man. It's so great to have you here. That was really inspiring work to see. So everything we do at the Accelerator comes thanks to support from our sponsors. So I want to give them a big thank you. Our founding sponsors are 475 High Performance Building Supply, Baxter Ingwe Architects, Glavel Foam Glass Gravel, Minutair All-in-One HVAC and Dehumidification Units, Mitsubishi Electric Train HVAC US, Partel, RDH Building Science, Rockwell North America, Stillcorp, and Zola Windows. Our champion sponsors are Icon Windows and Doors and SIGA, and our stakeholder partner is NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority. Thank you too to our patron sponsors, Aero Aggregates, Aero Barrier, BR+A Consulting Engineers, Brennan Air Tightness and Insulation, Euroline Windows, Innotech Windows and Doors, Lamelux, Sanderson Sustainable Design, and US Engineered Wood T-Stud. So a big thank you to our sponsors. On the Passive House podcast right now, we have an interview with Bohemia Hookham, who is a CPhD and architect based in Australia. She has a conversation with co-host Matthew Cutler-Welsh about the Glenroy Community Hub, which is a really cool community center, Passive House community center in Australia. So check that out on the podcast. We're also just winding up. We have a couple more episodes of bonus episodes from the FIASCon conference to share. And the most recent ones that we just, or one that we just published is with Michael Ingwe, founder of Passive House Accelerator and principal at Baxter Ingwe Architects, and Shannon Pendleton, of a co-host of Construction Tech and a principal at Sanderson Sustainable Design. So they talk about their impressions of the conference and some of the key takeaways that they had in that conversation. So check that out, please. Tomorrow on the showcase, we are joined by none other than Bronwyn Berry of the Passive House Network and principal of her own firm, Passive House BB. And she discusses her advice and kind of tips in how to transition your own practice to a 100% Passive House practice. So lots of cool kind of insights and direction that she will share with all of us tomorrow. And then on Thursday, we have episode 3 of the Building Performance Interactive, and that's our UK and Ireland-based show. We will be joined by co-hosts Dara McGowan, Mike Jacob, and Ben Adam Smith, and we'll be diving into waterproof, breathable fabrics in low carbon interface at scale. And it's going to focus on this project that you see pictured here, this really cool interfit project where there's an on-site video that I just had the chance to watch today. It's really great. And it includes the thought leadership of Andrew Simmons of Simmons Mills Architects and Tim Hulse of EcoVert Solutions. So I will include a link to register for that episode. It's early on Thursday, 6 a.m. Pacific, 9 a.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. In the UK and Ireland. And I think that's it. Thanks.
Hey, Zach, just before you go, I just was listening to some of the last podcasts, and you hit a pretty phenomenal number with your podcast. What's the latest in the viewers and downloads?
We're at just over 87,000 downloads of the podcast. Yeah, it's going great.
Congratulations to you and
Team
Matthew
effort.
and Ilka and Mary for doing a great job, and of course the rest of the Accelerator team for helping organize everyone to come to the podcast. They are great. Man, I think I powered through about 10 this weekend to try to get caught up, and you just dumped a whole bunch out here this week. So
we have more comments. Sorry, Sean.
No worries. Again, fantastic information that then complements all the other things that the Accelerator does. So it is the top of the hour. We do understand some of you may need to go for dinner, to put kids to bed, go back to work, and because there's so many passive projects you're working on, we totally understand. But we still have Sai for a little bit longer. We haven't got to the questions yet. I know Shannon's got a few lined up, so hopefully you'll stick around. But if you do have to go, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Like always, you have homework. You need to bring a friend next week, hopefully two, just like the last little bit of Christmas before we hit our break. So make sure you do your homework. Make sure you have a great and safe week. And again, come back tomorrow, come back Thursday, and all the rest of the podcast to keep you going all the way till next week. So let's carry it on. We're off to the overtime. Shannon, what's the questions? Who's in the lineup?
Good question, Sean. I think our first question is from Cameron in Fayetteville. And Cameron, I know you had a couple of questions. So go ahead and ask the first one, and we'll see if Sai is up for two. Oh, it looks like Cameron may have had to go early. So I'm going to ask Cameron's questions for her. So Cameron's first question was, how did you manage the air sealing at the roof transition? And I believe that was on the first project you showed where you changed sizes in the ICF wall and then had a transition to the roof from the smaller ICF wall.
The transition up there in that scenario where the ICF went all the way up, we had to connect it to the drywall, and that wasn't ideal at the time in 2008. No, that ended up being 2012. Sorry. But
before you were Passive House certified.
Yeah, exactly.
Excellent. And our next question is from Michael Marsh. Michael, are you with us? Would you like to ask your question? Oh, it looks like we might have lost Michael as well. So Michael's question was, he wanted to confirm that that was not a Passive House project and just use Passive House principles. Is that correct? That's the first one.
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, it was fairly new to us back then. And, it was a lot of information overload for anybody to do what we were doing at the time. So it was very challenging to get folks on board. And that's why we actually ended up teaching ourselves how to do a lot of these self-performed things that we couldn't find people to do, which was a great lesson for us, and that we've carried it on year after year.
I remember you mentioning that during the dry run, Sai, and I thought it was fantastic the way you mentioned that you tried things out on your own dime. And when you're a developer, often that is the opposite mentality that I've experienced. So I really appreciate that. And I also appreciate that you were trying to hit the sweet spot there between what people are doing just to meet basic code and how you can get them quickly and easily to a higher level and ultimately to Passive House. Now, I know you know the next person who may not have meant this to be a real question, but it was cheeky enough that I thought we should call him out on it. And that's James Harford. James, would you like to come on and ask your cheeky question about Texas?
Well, in Texas, we don't need to regulate the grid, so why regulate a house?
Exactly.
Cheeky. It was cheeky. but
Well,
at the same time, I mean, you know, like I am acknowledging the hard work that you and your client had done to do things better than what they need to do, right? Like it's that's double-edged sword that I threw out there, right? It's like there's a grid that fails and everybody is in complete dire straits, and somebody does it right that they didn't have to do by any means at all, and they freaking nailed it with a PH. And so there was one family that was not in a crisis in the middle of an ice storm. Welcome to the Northeast, right?
you know, you're absolutely right, James. What's crazy is that the way the home performs is just unbelievable. I mean, like 8 years later, you talk about it, be like, wow, their neighbors have close to $1,000 energy bills. There's like 100 and something. Their comfort levels are amazing. When the ice storm happened, they were down power, I think 48 hours, and they only lost like, we went from 71 to like 65 degrees in the inside of the home, which is a testament of the shell of that house. Never had a broken water line. Everybody else in my families that live there in different homes and people all around them had busted water lines. And, you know, and so now it's interesting because since then, we had a great group of folks that worked for us and we kept them busy. And, you know, we kept working on commercial work for my cousin and his partners. And so now, you know, we have a presence. We've always had a presence in Houston, and we're continuing to do work in Texas. And you know, I might eventually end up there full time in a couple of years. But the beautiful thing about it too is that, you know, we've been able to work with folks that want what we're doing. They're asking for it now. And that's a big change from last, you know, couple of years or 3 years. And we're doing work in Ohio, Kentucky, and Indiana, and Texas. And so I think it's just pretty awesome to see where it's going and what direction we're heading.
So Houston, we have a solution.
You're right.
It's perfect.
We have
Yeah.
one that we're trying to start right now. It's just having issues with the bank trying to get the paperwork and stuff done for a client, and that's in Porter, Texas. It's north of Houston, and that's going to be a certified passive house. And what's cool is about that a lot of things that have informed us to date now has allowed us to you know, look at products that are, you know, foam free, like with the wood fiber exterior wall, you know, on the exterior of your sheathing. So having a split wall for us, like if you're going to do something below grade, having it insulated, obviously, but then above grade, trying to stay with regular framing techniques that your framers are used to. And if you just tell me, just go 24 on center, it's not hard for them to do. And then you keep your continuous insulation. And the split wall has really been like a kind of a, well, it's great too, because obviously you know your dew point safe on the outside of that wall. And, you know, that just becomes a lot easier for people to grasp.
Absolutely proselytizing for people here. It's really great. You're like the green Johnny Cash or Johnny Appleseed. Planting the seeds and growing the seeds, apparently. I didn't know you did a grow house. That must have been a real challenge. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the energy modeling pieces of that? Were you familiar with that part of the process?
You know, it's interesting because they did not want to pay for that. So they kept hiring us like a sub. So, you know, he had his home farm crew, I guess, that works around the farm, do the things that they knew what to do, like, you know, fix up that structure or whatever. We still had to fix the structure afterwards, but we went ahead and applied just the rules of thumbs of what we learned in Climate Zone 4. And we gave it a little more than we probably, you know, were thinking to, or, you know, just to make sure that we were being safe on it. But we didn't get any of that data. He didn't want to pay for any roofing modeling either. And he was always changing his ideas and thoughts. So we had to kind of, it was like a design, build, and go. And there's separate contracts for each thing that we were doing at the time.
That is so fascinating, especially in light of what you shared last week as well, which is that you still will take a job as a subcontractor for someone if it means that you're going to get them to do a better job, if you're going to help someone learn a better way of doing it. So I really appreciate that. We have another question in from Michelle Wittner. Michelle, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Hi,
I think you might
guys.
have had two.
Yeah, thank you so much. This is my first time participating in Accelerator. All this time I've been like over hoping and wishing, and I finally caught it today.
Oh,
Um,
welcome.
Sai, you're awesome. Thank you for your knowledge. My dad was a contractor years ago, stick built, and from Ireland, and it was like old school on site. And now I'm a realtor for the last while since COVID, and in Ulster County, Hudson Valley in New York. So it's interesting because in all the trainings and things, when I keep bringing up the green builds and different ideas, I get a kind of nudge from some of the brokers that like, yeah, but it's not quite, the comps aren't there. It's kind of hard, you know. And I appreciate you're pushing the idea that you have to have that extra piece for the appraisals, right? To get the value as it should be. Um, but my question, I have two questions. They're very loaded, so you can just take what's easiest because it's too much for this period of time to answer. One, um, in passive house, and this is for anybody with the passive house stuff. I know that there's a lot of science and building science going into the aspect of getting the most return with the R values and the thermal bridging, making sure there's no thermal ridging, and trying to get the best performance out of a house. And therefore, a lot of the materials become somewhat more high tech and produced embodied carbon, whatever. There's that, plus also there's the natural building mode, which I know has some flaws, straw bale and such. Do you guys find that it's a constant selection on a case by case basis, or are there just two very different camps on how to get a green building going? Is it just like not even possible to do passive house with much more of the natural building? And concrete, of course, is in the middle. So let me hear your response, and then if you've had a minute, I'll ask you one more question.
Thanks, Michelle. That's awesome. Those are great questions. We always think, what's our end goal? And how do we achieve that? The end goal is high performance, healthy, durable, resilient. And so we can get it to it in many ways. And we showed a few different ways that we have done it in the past. And certainly homeowners or building owners will ask for certain things that maybe they see or they want or like. But a lot of times, if you're the pro and you're the one that knows what can, achieve that outcomes that they're looking for, then, and be successful at it. And we could also do it at a price point that is more affordable, then, that's the one that we would, encourage them to do. And right now we've gotten to a point where now we're going to just stick with a split wall, because most people don't need to worry about those types of details when it gets to the building science and picking things out. But, we always welcome a conversation. And if it's something they want, we do what they would like to do if they're willing to pay for it, but we still advise them, accordingly. And in each area, it depends on what climate zone you're in. Your wall section is going to be a little different, because you got to be dew point safe in different areas, and you got to have, different thicknesses and types of materials that need to be there. But we can get there in multiple ways. We try to encourage the most cost-effective approach, and one that would obviously help them achieve their goal.
Excellent. And one more point is, I have this like obsessive dream that I think 20 years now, but the real estate is just a kind of cover for me to get into the system and understand it better. And the thing I keep coming back to is like a Christopher Alexander inspired idea of clustered stuff, agri-food, pedestrian, renewables and resilient stuff, such beautiful things like you're building. And of course, affordability is always somewhere lurking about. And the one more point I want to make is, when you see these communities that may potentially be put in place, when you're looking at, there's obviously community solar and there's geothermal and everything. How about community batteries? I know in places like Australia, they use that as a kind of, it's like an interim between the infrastructure of the main, companies and private. Is that like just like a kind of, I know we're also kind of midway through battery evolution of battery types, and as we speak, we're there's so many, concrete batteries, and there's, all this stuff. I'm going to leave it to you to take this from here, because I probably talk too much, but thank you for everything, by the way. Okay.
Thank you, Michelle. That's a great question too. I mean, our goal is to certainly be 100% off grid. And so the best way to get there is to get that shell right. And that's with passive house, and modeling it to your climate zone, because we tell folks, when you do it that way, you're like 80% there. You essentially you negated your losses. You've essentially created this shell that is going to work for you, and it's going to use 80% to 90% less energy usage than your typical home. At that point, renewables become so much easier to do because you need less to get to zero. And then if you do pay more for more, then you add battery and you store it. At that point, you're easily able to get off the grid. Now, a lot of folks in our industry are getting into DC microgrids. That's the direction we're going. And a lot of creative things happening. People buying like Nissan Leafs that are, older used ones, and they're using them as battery storage because they're 3 times the size. The battery's like 3 times the size of ones that you could buy for the same price, that are being made new for the buildings. And so they're storing in the car, backfeeding into the building, using it at night. We're getting there. We're close. There's people already doing it in our community, and I'm very optimistic about where we're going. But it starts with passive house envelope, and that's why we knew that let's take the hard out of this and let's try to do volume of panels and walls and shell for people and get it right and be a sub for them if they want the high performance windows and doors, and help them, make it easy for them, because that's the biggest part of getting them there. That big development we showed at the end there, we're looking at obviously that solar array on top of the distribution. There's not going to be any cooling going on in there. Just going to be some big ass fans that are circling around in the summer. So we're going to produce a whole lot more energy, and we're going to scale jump. We're going to probably power the rest of that community and maybe stuff across the street. So that's the direction we're going with it.
Bravo answer to that question, Michelle. Great questions. I just have to give you a shout out because I was waiting for the "it depends" in that answer. And I appreciate that it took about halfway through before you pulled it out, and you didn't even need to pull it out. It just work perfectly in that sentence. So you know what, we're all blessed here tonight because your stuff, and the fact that you're proving it and then you're scaling it to this level. I can't wait until the health spa opens up so you and I can go and have a little mandate and hang out and enjoy, because it looks like such a cool space that you're doing. So Michelle, thank you for joining us tonight. We need more newbies to come along and ask these tough questions and get into it. But you can see, Sai's been at this a long time. He's been in the trenches. Literally, when you saw that, that foam trench that you created, this is just great. And
we got to get you up here, Sai, in New York. We got to lure you up this way. That's all. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Michelle. And what's interesting when you say that is that, what we've learned throughout these many years is that there's not a lot of folks doing it. That's why we've had to do these things ourselves. So we offer drafting services, we offer design, we offer design services, we offer consulting, CPHC. When it comes to architectural services, we partner with our real architects, registered architects. And if folks in residential are, not able to quite afford a real architect, our architects will at least lead the process, that are CPHCs, take them through the minimum schematic design that helps them figure out the program and the orientation. And then at that point, it hands off, and in-house will draft it to a permit set. That's just a thing to offer. And so, we travel in different areas where we can help people. And a lot of times what you see with this good thing about the pandemic is that we've been able to do a lot of great things over Zoom and remotely, which has been a nice thing that we've been able to see too. We have people in Houston that are still with us. We have folks in Cincinnati, Ohio. They're part of the Ubergreen team. And so, it's just, we want to be where, we want to help people and whoever we can.
Thanks so much for those questions, Michelle. Where in New York are you?
I actually moved in the last couple of months with my husband and 2 kids to Ulster County, Rosendale, which is a little north of New Paltz. We're in like this insanely, all of New York City was glancing this direction over the last year. And I came a little late on the mania to be a wealthy agent because I was scared to get the kids sick. So I kind of stood back. But once I got my shot, my vaccine, and I got involved, I'm just looking at it as, it's a great time to be learning about, all these folks moving up. I hate to be the one in the room that's always a little negative though, because sometimes I feel like saying, guys, we're going to have a lot of climate refugees over the next 20 years. Let's get it right. Let's get these systems up now. Let's build this infrastructure, buy some agri-hood type land and help people be resilient. Not so much beyond Thunderdome, but just something where it's like, common sense. We need to build some infrastructure safety. And that's why I'm excited that people are doing what you're doing, because I'm overwhelmed myself as how to do it. And so I'm just trying to put together the puzzle pieces, meeting different people who are really hip to different areas of this. So I see myself as a connector. So I'm thankful to meet y'all today.
Oh, Michelle too. Oh, James, go ahead. Yeah, that was
Sorry. So Michelle, I just found you on LinkedIn, and
Yeah.
you should know that we just hosted the FIAS conference in Tarrytown. So Passive House Institute, the Passive House, the names are in transition, so bear with me as I adjust. So FIAS Alliance Hudson Valley is an organization that I had founded. We have over 300 members, and we were host to the national conference here in the Hudson Valley. And we are doing a lot of work. We've hosted events in New Paltz, in Hudson, in every community that you can imagine, and we are very active. So you got to find us. Tomorrow night we're having our winter quarterly meeting, so please attend.
Thank you so much. And I just want to say also, there's a lot of folks who are not as nosy as me, who sort of say, I'm not a designer, I'm not an architect. What do I know about that? I'll just wait till things change. But my thinking was, we're on the forefront of where change is happening, because it's in people's pockets. You know, it's the buying and selling and retrofitting and I mean, this is like, to me, the place where change might be very, happening further than other places. So
we are.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
And Michelle, I wouldn't listen to anybody's bullshit negativity when it comes to like you not being this or that. I mean, it takes everyone to be a part of this. It doesn't take just builders or architects or designers or subs and material suppliers. It takes everyone. And a lot of the people that are the ones that are really making it happen are ones that are taking a leap of faith and working with us to make this happen, or purchasing from us, And so you all like the early adopters, you all are the ones that are legitimizing this and making it happen. So one of the things too, I didn't know if you have this or not, Greening the MLS is a group that's, might, I don't know if you're interested in or know of them in your area.
I've heard of them, but I got to get deep. Yeah, I'm going to go deep into that.
Okay. If you want, you could start your own chapter. I started one in Louisville, Kentucky, because it wasn't there and I needed a legitimate, bring credibility to these projects that we were doing. And so I got Paul Yankee's help from Green Building Consulting in Cincinnati, Ohio. He's also, he's like a green rater for us and everything, but he started the one in Cincinnati. He did a brain dump on us. It was awesome. We made live traction, changed the MLS, got value for people, and I could send you all that stuff if you're interested, or anybody.
Thank you, Sai. I love it. Everybody's so amazing. I'm feeling very inspired for you all, and I'm definitely going to be checking that group out tomorrow night. One more thing is, I know someone from out in Portland that I know locally was talking about Recode. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Recode. It's from Portland, and I guess they try to come up with precedents for around the country for like areas that have issues around coding, to show how, engineers have done this particular building or that or method in the past. So it's kind of cool. I thought. I haven't checked it out fully yet, but thanks so much, everybody. You're awesome. Thank you, Sai.
Yeah, great to have you here, Michelle, asking these questions. And you're 99% of the way in the right place, because you're framing it with a positive light. You're pushing on everyone who's close to the edge. And now you've connected with just about every expert in the room that I am always following too. So reach out to us anytime, bring your friends, and email us often. And we'll keep in touch and make sure that any questions you have as you familiarize yourself get answered quickly. So I think one of the greatest things about this point in time is that we can let all the things that divided us on these subjects fall to the wayside, because now it doesn't cost more. So finally, we've tunneled through the cost barrier, and we can all agree that if you can save money, if you can save energy, and you can save your health, maybe it's a good idea. So I don't know if we have any more questions. There was a question from Peter for you, Michelle, in the chat, so look that up. Also, James put a link in the chat for tomorrow's meeting in the Hudson Valley. And I've already shared that with my friend in the Hudson Valley, just moved up there, another Shiro builder. But if anybody out there has a question for Sai, I think it's time to get to the gallery view and just give everybody
I
a
got something
wave.
for you, Shannon.
Yeah, Mark, take it over.
So the energy tonight, first and foremost, was really great. So I wish that someone with your tone and directness and calmness and eyes wide open was in the school system when I was going through there, because I certainly would have been more attentive than I was. It's a really, really welcoming way of delivering your passion forward. And I tried something different while listening tonight, and it's the reason we started the program, and it's because of technical technique and technology. And I tried to look at each of the things that you did in that focus. What occurred to me was I quickly filled up my paper because you went to so many different projects and you showed your vastness, your reach, right? And just when I thought we were wrapping, you rolled into the next, and you rolled into the next. So one of the comments I liked happened after the presentation, and you said, let's take the hardness out of this. And that's always the friendly reminder of possible, plausible action now. And so the technical technique and technology you delivered, you also delivered striking projects that make a difference in community. And for that, I'm really full of joy. I'm going to blame you for not sleeping tonight. I got to blame someone, but much respect, Sai. Really well delivered. And the fact that you had some fresh faces here tonight to come in and feel welcomed and feel energetic to take it forward. That's why we're gathered. That's why we're inclusive. That's why we're not exclusive. Bless your heart.
Thank you, Mark. That's pretty awesome, man. I don't know if it's well deserved, but I mean, it's interesting because like I've always stayed curious, and I think at a young age my dad instilled something. I remember I was probably 7 or 8, and we were at my cousin's house, and we're in the basement, and it was in northern Kentucky, and I was like, Dad, why is it musty in here? It's gross. He's like, well, there's no real thing to stop moisture from coming in. I tried to create some stuff. I tried to do a few things, but it never worked. But he looked at me, he's like, it's up to you to figure that out. And at a young age, he really empowered me and my brothers to be fearless and never be satisfied with status quo, and always look to improve things. And so I think I strongly feel that when you're in a position of responsibility, and especially with the knowledge that we have or the experiences we have, that it's our responsibility to do right with it and to try to help benefit as many people as we can with that. And so that's why I think going through these years of different things, it's been awesome because I came up in the field. I'm used to getting dirty. I still get dirty. Because we do it with folks, because it allows them to get over their fears and try something different, and it makes it easier for these techniques to be adopted. But what's really cool is what we've seen too is that when they do that, there's a new excitement there, and we're noticing like carpenters, laborers that are working for us, they are really interested in what's going on, and they want to come back to the project even after they've done their piece to see it in the end, which is awesome. And like, they take pictures and videos of sharing with people and chatting it up, and it's just pretty awesome to see. And by looking at it, it's like when people buy an existing home as well, or a building, they're like wanting to usually do the cosmetics, like the interior finishes. It's like, great, it's easier. You're taking an existing building or housing stock, and you're just improving the interiors and cosmetics, because that's all you should worry about as a homeowner or a building owner. We're the ones that need to figure out that shell. We need to get it right. because that usually people, when they do remodeling and stuff, they're not tearing walls down. If they're going to go the extra mile, they're going to do probably some, outsolation or some panels or something on the outside, or increase the insulation. But if we get that hard out of there, we can help more people. And that's why, like, one of the folks with us on the team, Casey, was like, man, we were spending so much time with these clients on their custom home, and it's quite a lot of resources that we're putting towards it, when we could probably help a lot more of the people. And it's like, yeah, that's very true, and that's why we're trying to take a focus on just help people get the shell done. We'll take them turnkey, but like with the ADU series, we're going to offer as a kit. We're going to offer it as outside done, a cube, and then you can have all the stud walls open. You can finish the inside out how you want, deal with your local building codes and plumbing codes and all that stuff, finish it your own. We get the hard part done. You're on the way to success.
Can you talk a little bit about when you decided to transition from doing big commercial projects with a really big commercial construction firm and bring that kind of level of big think and big build to residential construction? And then I know your family is still involved in construction from what you mentioned before. Are they doing the residential side as well, or are they on the commercial side? And what's Thanksgiving dinner like at your house?
That's a good question, Shannon. Good questions. I think, when I was doing a lot of large commercial, I was very, I think I was proud doing what I was doing, because there was a lot of professionals involved, and, you're seeing great things happen. But then hearing a lot of the complaints from people about their builder and residential, or their remodel, or their two-person doing addition, was very disheartening to me. But then seeing also the disconnection in commercial with you're doing a hospital, for God's sakes. I mean, this thing should be, energy efficient. So also the indoor air quality should be superior to anything that's out there. And the humidity should be right. And infectious control is a huge thing there. So I mean, if we're having issues based off of these stamped drawings, there's a better solution out there. And that's why I seek it to be looking for best building practices and best design practices. And basically, when I noticed on large commercial job, one of my first ones when I started the company in 2006 was, that lack of carryover of professionalism in the residential industry. And I know it's like that because big organizations lobby for less energy code. I mean, and they use the argument that it costs more to do these things. But the fact of the matter is, people don't like to learn anything new. Most people don't like change. And if in a motto in Kentucky is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So people don't really realize that there should be improvements and stuff. But when I went that route, I was partners with my brothers and my dad before he passed away in 2007, doing development and stuff like that too. We fundamentally didn't align with our design and building practices. And, one of my brothers said, hey, my green is this. And hey, I'm not saying right or wrong, but that's what you value. They've gone on and continued, without me after we sold some assets and split, and, they wanted to reinvest into something big and in Cincinnati. And, Cincinnati's downtown is blowing up. They're doing great with development. They're making a lot of money, and, I'm proud of them for I guess pursuing things and, staying out of jail. And, but for me, I just really couldn't live with myself doing something that is same thing day in, day out, without doing anything better or improving things when I know people are having issues with buildings and homes. And so that's where I took that pursuit of going this route. And, it's rewarding in many ways.
You're paying it forward for all the kids is what you're doing, Sai. And I think it's time to put your brother's emails in the chat so that we can all email them and let them know now that they can make even more money this way.
Yeah. I just want to email them to say I'm on Size Fan Club, and that's with a PH, and I'm not on yours. So, you know, we're on that side of the fence. So
Yeah, and you get first dibs on the turkey leg at the table.
that's it.
Yeah. So the Thanksgiving thing, Shannon, I mean, I love my family. I love my siblings. One of my brothers and I, we don't really see eye to eye. We don't really communicate much at all. The other one, we're pretty cordial with each other. He's still in construction daily. He's, doing development with other people too. And, we chop shop a little bit. He's, when I was building my cousin's house in Texas with my cousin, I would go every month. My brothers were around that time. It was kind of fresh off of when we broke apart. They're disappointed because I have a lot of large commercial experience that we all could have benefited with each other going forward, but they wouldn't ask me anything about me and what I was doing with my cousin. But every once in a while they would talk to my cousin, like, what's he doing, what are y'all doing? They would ask him, they wouldn't ask me, and then they would just kind of test my cousin. But my cousin really did his research, or like Zach would say, research, but he really looked into these things. And it was really cool too, because when a light bulb went off for them when they were in the field and they were building the house, the ICF was up, all the guys would go under, inside and lay up against the ICF walls and sit on the concrete slab. And it was like 100 and something degrees outside and humid, but inside it was like a 20-degree difference. It was like 80 and cool. And so like that was kind of light bulb went off in my cousin and my uncle's head. Because my uncle's like, no, you all are crazy. It's bullshit. Come on. These motherfuckers don't know what they're talking about. Da da da. And I was like, we had all kinds of people coming by trying to tell us we know what we're doing. But that's just interesting. Like my brothers, I think now at this point are kind of, they're kind of shy to talk much about it. But the one that I talk shop with sometimes will ask me for some thoughts, which is cool.
I'm with you. I have a brother who's not drinking the same Kool-Aid that I am, so I understand. And he lives on the same property as I do. And my husband doesn't know. Well, he's handy, but he's not in the biz. So I get in a whole family love triangle over here myself. So I understand. But I like that you're talking about the experiential part, because Sean and Mark are all over that. And it seems like when someone gets into a space, gets into a passive house, they have like a visceral reaction because they aren't expecting it to feel so differently or sound so differently, or have a feeling of health, from the fresh air. Yeah, exactly. Or they're just surprised that the window's open. Like that's still like one of those great misconceptions that the passive house windows don't open. But do you have any experience with clients that were really surprised when you brought them into their buildings for the first time?
Oh man, Shannon, I tell you, we've had so many amazing responses by occupants and people that visit, which that's one thing that I felt really strongly about by putting like My Green Kentucky Home out there, trying to do in 2008, but then finally in 2012, was to get people to come through, because if they can feel it, touch it, smell it, experience it, it's real. And then when you hear from the occupants, I mean, my cousin tells me, like, he's like, man, you had far exceeded mine and Piper's expectations when it comes to this house. Piper was worried, but she trusted both of us to do what we did. And they like the one house that we did, for example, the Suverde, the Proud Green Home of Louisville, we would have many folks come through. We had our own show. Like we had over 1,000 some odd folks come through at one point in 2 weeks, and it was crazy. And so there were some folks that said, man, you can't hear anything outside there, and it's the kind of neighborhood where you're 10 foot apart from your neighbor, and you got people, the sidewalks are right there in front of the houses. And then another person was, oh, this is crazy, a lady come in with a mask on prior to COVID, obviously, and she looked pretty frail. And as I was talking to him, giving an introduction, talking about non-toxic, blah, blah, takes her mask off slowly. and sits down on you know, the a stool by the island. And then she goes, as you've been talking, I've been breathing. And she said, every house that we've been walking through in this neighborhood, it's new, I can't breathe. And she had some sort of a disease. I don't know what it was, but it was a respiratory issue. And she started crying. And she said, I can't believe this. And so
that's amazing.
yeah, it was unbelievable. It was pretty touching. And then, you know, she basically was talking to us about building their new home. And unfortunately, her husband wasn't really buying it. And, you know, he didn't follow through with it for her. I mean, I hope she's all right. But, you know, oh, it was funny too. Another
I heard she's
person
remarried now, so.
Yeah. But we learned some other things too. Like when we talk about the ERV, people are like, oh my gosh, does that mean you don't have to dust as much? I was like, well, son of a bitch, we don't have to dust that much because
That's exactly right.
you know, we're in this model like every day, like have meetings, and you know, we maybe dust it like once a month, you know, or less. And it's like, wow, that's pretty amazing. And then, you know, minimal insects is pretty amazing. Oh, that house, for example, we lost power before I went on a trip in February, and the temperatures was, no, I'm sorry, we lost heat. I apologize. We lost heat because there was a circuit breaker that was loose for the furnace, and there was geothermal on that one, and it was sitting for 2 weeks straight, no heat, in 20-degree type of weather. It never went below 55 degrees. I mean, I walked in there, I was shook. I was like, oh my God, could you imagine what this would have cost us with busted lines? I mean, that house in general, we had challenges.
And hotel rooms.
Oh my gosh. I mean, yeah, that was scary. But I mean, to me, like, it was like this one, everything flashed in front of your face at one time. Like it was like this moment of death, a scary experience. But you know, that was like a relief, and it just made me be thankful at the time for our approach, you know.
Great stuff.
This is a good segue to Barbara's question. Barbara, would you like to unmute and ask your question?
Is this the question about the cousins and the
Yes,
brothers?
and the ice storm.
I just wondered what your brothers now think. Presumably they've heard back from the cousins in Texas who lived through the ice storm. Any reaction from your brothers on the cousins? Good experience.
That's a great question, Barbara. My cousin is hilarious because he's so excited about his house that he rubs it in on him jokingly. I mean, I tell him, man, come on, bro, you gotta stop that. You know, they're already still, you know, I think they're still resentful of me not like going along with them and just staying partners and everything. But they've seen, you know, we've been written about quite a bit in different publications. You know, people that know us mutually talk about what we're doing to them, and we never hear any feedback from them. So you know, my brothers are very prideful. You know, they're type of personality that I think would never admit wrong. Actually, in fact, I mean, you know, there's a lot of people like that, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong. It's just that some people, you know, don't admit that, and we don't, and a lot of times we don't like it. I get kind of shy talking about our stuff and like what we do, or you know, us. But I mean, I just tell people, look, I could tell you what we do and how we do it, but the third party testers are the ones that'll tell you what's up. You know, those are the ones that I
Now
can
you're
tell
talking.
you. Yeah, I'm like, I could tell you, I'm telling blue in the face that we can do this, but look at our results. Look at the HERS score. Look at the blower door. You know, we're under 0.5 ACH. Talk to the people that are in these places.
Yeah, walk into a passive house. That is the way. You're just, this poor woman with the chemical sensitivities to the VOCs. That's awful. But yeah, that's what passive house is for.
Hey, that's
a lot of people got into it for just that reason, right, Barbara?
Hey, just a bit of a segue, just because there's a few you still here. The Accelerator are planning something along this line. So in the new year, we've got this crazy event called Experience Passive House Experience, because we want people to experience a passive house. And so we need to figure out how to design and either virtually or in person so they can experience this. So just wait, everyone. We're going to bring this out in the new year. So it's coming because we want more people to experience a passive house. So it's coming.
Sure. You know, Sean, that's a great thing that you all are coming out with, because one of our things that we've been trying to do since implementing building science has been to find a way to make it affordable. And, you know, the way you can get there is if you can work with the people that are already used to doing things the way they're doing things, like standard framing, if that's possible, or, you know, just adding those things that can be added to it to get that continuous insulation. But we truly believe that a home or building is not affordable if you can't afford the operating expenses and the utilities. And so that's why I like the affordable housing we're doing. You know, in the future here is going to be passive house certified, but if it's not going to get the actual certification, it's at least it'll be able to test that way and get certified if it was paid for. But everyone should be able to experience this, and people don't always talk about the respiratory issues that people have, especially people that are in situations when they're living in a home that, you know, they can't afford to rent still, and you know, they barely have, sometimes they have to decide what utility to pay just to even be able to afford to live. And, you know, that shouldn't be an issue for folks. I mean, we should take that out of the equation.
Oh,
There's an amazing presentation, podcast, and article on the Accelerator for Dennis Wedlick's passive house, Hudson Passive House, where they didn't turn the heat on for a whole winter one year in upstate New York. Pretty impressive. And where they also did an NREL document where they took the Energy Star Habitat for Humanity house for Hudson Habitat to Passive House, and they showed the utility bills, the monthly utility bills for the folks living there and needing that cash in their pockets instead. It's a big deal, but I would really love to have owner testimonials, number one, like the one you had when you did your price proof of price earlier in the presentation, where, you know, they say, I live in a passive house and my energy bill's $10, you know, beat that. And I would just love to have just a series of homeowners do that. And then the other thing I love, Sai, is that you went through so many different typologies tonight, and you ended on one that I know you couldn't talk about a lot because it's kind of on the QT, and I appreciate that you showed us some sneak previews. But it really reminds me of kind of a new typology, right? Because when I went and saw my mom's old hometown with her once, and the original hometown was like blown out and just dilapidated and in big disrepair, but it was still really beautiful. You know, you could see the old theater and you could see the old buildings just wanting to be saved. And then the new town, which replaced it right next door, was just all giant box stores. It was all big box stores and roads. There was nothing about people. And that new typology that you are trying to work on right now looks like it could be the best of both worlds, where everybody can go and experience it. They can live there, they can shop there, and they can work there. So I'm excited. I'm excited to follow your work and see where that goes.
Yeah, we're definitely excited doing that. And, you know, what's awesome about this community is that when you have individuals that are outcome oriented and goal oriented, and they think about, you know, those things being the main thing, and take your selfishness out of it, take your biases out of it, take, you know, your feelings out of it, and just be as objective as possible. That's something that's really helped us be able to move things forward, is trying our best to be objective and open to new thoughts and ideas. And, you know, we still look at ourselves as being students, and we're always trying to improve. And, you know, like I saw some notes there for folks, you know, talking about foam. Yeah, we had to do that way back then. And, you know, that's something we're getting away from. And I appreciate whoever thrown in there. I don't know where it's at in that thread, but I hope to get copy of that or whatever other suggestions they had said of ICF, because we're constantly trying to improve these things and take down our, carbon and, and put in more healthier materials and products. And our goal is always, with LBC, if you could be red list free, that's amazing. And that's the goal we should all work towards. And yeah, we absolutely love it. And we're having fun at it. I think if we didn't always try to improve that, it would get boring and, we might have to do something else.
I know. And now we just have to get really creative too, because we've got to find those supplies out there or make them ourselves. So making your own barn door was pretty fly, Si. That was great. And right before I jumped on this presentation tonight, I was looking at the hay bale presentation that Beas was doing, and we're going to have those girls on here. Those are some real sheroes. But I'm really excited to see how this community, our little community and the larger Passive House community, starts to get inventive about materials and getting the carbon out, getting the local workforce in, and making a rapid prototype, kind of like your prototypes. I like the names a lot for those, by the way. I think it's time. What do you think, Sean?
I think it is, my friend. So, Si, we do this at the end of the show. I mean, we're deep into it. We're almost 2 hours and 50 minutes into here. So we're going to have some fun. And of course, it's always with the PH. If we can get you to read this one over my shoulder, we're going to start with this. And then we'll switch over, minus the Christmas lights. Hopefully you're not getting blinded. And then when you're done, you can ask somebody in the audience to do the same thing. So when you're ready.
Hey, Sean, can you do a practice run first while I queue up the video?
Sure.
Because I'm going to record this one.
Okay. Passive House. Oh, sorry. I was getting ready. I knew it. Jeez, I was like, you could have done the 1, 2, 3. Anyhow, here we are, folks. Passive House Accelerator, construction tech, technology, technique, technical. Over to you, Si.
Thanks, Sean. It is the fucking fantastic Passive House Accelerator construction tech, technical, technique, technology.
Pass it off to someone else,
Shannon.
Wow, I get to say it. I never get to say it. Passive House Accelerator construction tech, technical, technique, technology. I'm throwing it to Dave Cooper.
Oh boy. Passive House Accelerator, technical technique. Mark, give me some help.
Technology, brother.
Technology.
Welcome, Dave.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Thanks for hanging out with us. Who do you want to throw it to, Dave? Who do you see out there?
You know what? I think that I'm going to throw it to, how about Barbara in Oz, just because I love the name.
Thank you. So here we are for Passive House Accelerator, construction tech, technical, technique, technology on Tuesdays. And I was going to throw it to Michelle if it came to me, but she's just logged off, which is a shame.
Yeah, we should have got the newbie to do it. Good try.
We should have.
Peter has a friend who wants to participate. Peter, was that a ferret?
Julie, no, you're going? Come on, you do the Passive House. Go on. Oh, she's gone.
Just snuck out.
Get her away.
That's okay. Peter's got something to say.
Okay, Peter.
The animal, Passive House Acceleration, construction tech, technical, technique, technology. It's good. Thanks for the knowledge and presentation. It was excellent, Si. The animal that I was showing was one of 2 pet rats. They're wonderful, intelligent, clean, good company. Pet rats. Yeah. That's,
fantastic. Thank you for sharing.
Good. Thanks. Good. Go, Bob. Your turn.
There you go. Bob's up.
Wow, great presentation. Thanks, Peter. Passive House Accelerator, construction tech, awesome technology, technique, and technical attributes of everybody here.
Thanks, Bob.
Hey, Bob, you forgot passive ventilation.
Oh, passive ventilation. Oh, don't open that ball of wax.
And don't forget to get your roof right, or Bob is going to come and see you. And if anyone here has not seen Bob's presentation on this show, it's
go back and check it out.
The video where the water comes out of the wall for 15 minutes is amazing. My personal favorite.
Yeah.
I can't get
Thank
it.
you, everybody, for coming tonight. Any final words, Sean, Mark?
Sean first.
Hey, Sai said it. I think I'm going to copy it every time we end the show. Stay curious, everybody.
There you go, Dave Cooper. Dave Cooper's got a wick right breaking into the Zoom room. There you go. Hey, Sai. I think it's amazing. I think every time people present and surprise us with more and more and more and more, it's like me at the ice cream bar. I'm just diving into another scoop and another scoop. This has been a wonderful experience for Passive House Accelerator Construction Tech. I love all your beautiful faces. I love all your incredible minds.
Wait, everybody.
Shannon. Oh, there you go. Colton's got a haircut.
Bob, it looked like I missed your question, but I'm hoping that you'll forgive me.
Oh, you're good. No, it's cool.
All
Thank you.
right. Well, I'm going to remind everybody to grab the 3 buttons at the bottom of the chat and save that chat so that they can follow those links to all the great stuff happening this week, all the wonderful links to connect with Sai on social media, and read that Dwell article. It's pretty hot. And come back and see us next week so you can get a load of the microgrids and the nanogrids. So we're going to dive deep on that next week. Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Passive House Accelerator.
Great day.
Hey, Sai, don't click out, brother. Hang tight.
Hey, thanks you everyone for doing this. I really look forward to seeing you all every week, even if I'm like off video and I'm in a car. I love like listening to you all. You're such a great team. You have such great cohesiveness, and you all feed off each other so well.
Thank you. We love hanging out and we do get along pretty well. I got to say, sometimes I have to leave the room though. It just gets to be too many boys. Sometimes I think I need to invite a girl. Just once in a while.
Sometimes we feel like we're hanging out in the firehouse talking a little bit too chummy, huh?
Yeah, I'm going to stop the recording.
Yeah.
Okay.